Well, Oregon football is certainly breaking out the wallets this year when it comes to the transfer portal and their move to the Big Ten, tougher schedule. Not only do they get Dylan Gabriel, who I'm really high on, I think he's the best quarterback in the portal if you're just talking about next year in terms of elite quarterback play, but they also get Dante Moore. And I'm guessing they've convinced Dante Moore, who is going to be going into his second season of college football, to sit behind Dylan Gabriel for a year and then take over as Oregon's next QB. This is how crazy the transfer portal has gotten. Oregon has potentially gotten their next two quarterbacks over a 3-year period where Dylan Gabriel starts next year and then Dante Moore takes over 2 years after that. Dante Moore, former 5-star quarterback, top 5 overall player. Obviously, nobody thought he was going to end up at Oregon after they took Dylan Gabriel. Everyone thought Dante Moore would want to start immediately, but apparently this is what's happening. So Oregon spending some big money on QBs and literally building their future quarterback room through the transfer portal. This is something we're going to see more and more of as the transfer portal continues to develop. Teams don't want to develop their own quarterbacks. They want to take from smaller schools, and they don't really want to go through those growing pains. We've seen Notre Dame do this now with 2 different quarterbacks, Riley Leonard and Sam Hartman, taking more experienced players. But this is completely next level what Oregon is doing, getting their next 2 quarterbacks within the same portal. And I would imagine there was some type of money involved in this, considering Dante Moore is going to have to sit behind Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel is just a better college quarterback. Obviously, there was money involved in Dylan Gabriel's, commitment as well. And Oregon is not the only team doing this. Pretty much every team is doing this. It's just, how far do you want to take it in terms of paying players? Oregon, you've got to give them credit. They're taking advantage of this. They realize the schedule is going to get a lot more hard. They've got Ohio State next year in Eugene with Dylan Gabriel starting. They've made a major investment. It'll be interesting to see the future for Oregon in terms of that. Also, think about Oregon with Bo Nix, getting him from Auburn after he started there for multiple years. So they're really loving the transfer portal with the quarterbacks right now. Their next 2 QBs very likely to be Dylan Gabriel. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. And then Dante Moore, the former 5-star, who is also into the portal. Just taking a look at this is the top transfer portal QBs right now. I'm going to say I really don't agree with these rankings. It's very hard to get a gauge on how people are evaluating these QBs. A lot of this is from, if Aiden Childs has 3 years of eligibility left and some of these other players only have 1, Childs is more valuable. I mean, I guess, but if we're just ranking them off of how good they're going to be next year and even into the future, I would put Dylan Gabriel at number 1 or number 2, probably Cam Ward at number 2 or number 3. Malik Murphy to me is way too high. I mean, he showed some things. He's got a strong arm, but he kind of reminds me of Joe Milton. I would have Malik Murphy a little bit lower. How about Malachi Nelson coming in at number 5? He barely played his true freshman year at USC. It's crazy how much he got devalued to where this dude was a top 5 overall player just last year in last year's recruiting class. He plays barely at USC. Now he's into the portal. Looks like Lincoln Riley wants Will Howard. You can see he's gotten a crystal ball. He hasn't committed there yet, but the thought process is he will be going there. Dante Moore already going to Oregon. Cam Ward possibly going to Miami. Does Ohio State or another school get in on the mix there? Maybe Florida State gets on the mix with Cam Ward. A little bit of a bidding war between Miami and FSU for him, but I would expect right now Cam Ward to go to Miami. Malik Murphy, I have no clue. Malachi Nelson, I'm not sure. With Murphy, I heard there was a rumor that, maybe a team like Baylor, but that got shut down when Finn, you can see he's ranked number 9, from Toledo, committed to Baylor, so that'll be their future quarterback. Brock Vandegrift, I think, is ranked way too high. I understand he's a former 5-star, but that was 3 classes ago, and he couldn't beat out Carson Beck. I would have Vandegrift a little bit lower. Certainly, I would have Gabriel over Vandegrift. Kyle McCord, I would have lower. Kyle McCord's situation is very interesting, and we're going to discuss this, the major commitment that Nebraska got with Dylan Raiola. Look, I think Kyle McCord visited Nebraska right as the Dylan Raiola Raiola flip from Georgia was starting to materialize, and Nebraska said, listen, we're taking him and we're giving him an opportunity to fight for the starting job as a true freshman. And I think Kyle McCord said, no, this is my 4th year in college. I want to be guaranteed a starting job. And the best school where he could be guaranteed it, I guess was Syracuse. Maybe there was another school out there that he didn't go to, but Kyle McCord ends up at Syracuse. I do not think Kyle McCord is going to be very good at Syracuse personally. Probably a 7-5 type team. But we will see. Again, people kind of look at the record with McCord. Oh, he went 11-1. There's a lot of quarterbacks that could go 11-1, 10-2, even 12-0 in Ohio State system. It's just very, very simple in terms of playing quarterback. Kyle McCord has some severe awareness issues. He has mobility problems, and it's not going to help, when he really is not surrounded by that elite talent like he was at Ohio State. So I would move McCord down a little bit. When it comes to DJ Uiagalelei, very likely he's going to FSU. So really a lot of these quarterbacks, we know where they're going. If Ward goes to Miami, DJ goes to FSU, it comes down to Murphy and Nelson. Malachi Nelson and Malik Murphy, those would be the two final ones in terms of, who needs a quarterback. I have heard from Murphy with Chip Kelly, possibly UCLA. That's the other thing I'll say about him. It's not confirmed or anything. There's no crystal ball, but that's the one thing I've heard when it comes to him. So that's just where the transfer portal QBs sit. And then talking about the big flip that happened yesterday, Dylan Raiola, this is what people expected. What a wild recruitment. Originally commits to Ohio State, decommits. It looked like he was going to flip to Nebraska right after he decommitted from Ohio State. He doesn't. He ends up committing to Georgia, moving to Georgia to recruit, going to a Georgia high school, and now he's flipping to Nebraska. His father, his uncle, heavy ties to the Cornhuskers, and what an amazing get this is for Nebraska. And Dylan Raiola, just in his stature, he does remind me a bit of Patrick Mahomes. Now, that's just, based off his arm talent, the way he looks. We will see if he can actually, prove it on the field. But Nebraska, you have to be very cautious and optimistic if you are a Cornhuskers fan. I will warn them, in this day and age with the transfer portal, this kid's already gone to 4 different high schools. It wouldn't be hard for him to go into the portal after one bad year at Nebraska where maybe he doesn't play that great. It's not like Nebraska has crazy good skill position players, and their schedule is very likely going to get tougher away from the Big Ten West. There's going to be growing pains. It's very key for Nebraska to sell Dylan Raiola on year 2, year 3, develop as a true freshman, but don't give up on us. We will get more players. That's what you're going to have to sell him on, because this is a kid that's gone to multiple high schools. He very easily could go into the portal and get a massive NIL deal if his first year at Nebraska does not go very well, if he ends up being the starter, which I would imagine they're probably going to play him a lot as a true freshman. It makes sense if you are Nebraska and you want to build your young quarterback, to start multiple years, your young 5-star. Nebraska's never had a talent like this really ever recently, so this is huge for their program, but now it's about keeping him. That's the thing with the transfer portal. It's like you can recruit, but then you have to keep recruiting them even after they're on campus, because just like that, they can leave very easily. So that is another situation. And then we also do have Alabama. They've been kind of quiet in terms of the transfer portal, especially compared to other teams. We're seeing Missouri get 2 top 15 players. We're seeing Ole Miss load up in the portal, get very solid top 30 players. Looks like Alabama's possibly going to get one of Texas A&M's former 5-star defensive linemen out of that 2022 class, LT Overton, who originally reclassified from 2023. He was like a top 5 overall player. He goes to 2022, and now he's a solid 4-star in the portal. Bama possibly going to fortify their defensive line. Not really surprising. The transfer portal right now, it is pretty much owned by the SEC, and you also do have Walter Nolan out there possibly trending to Ole Miss as well. I heard Penn State was another team that was in it for Walter Nolan. That'd be awesome if Walter Nolan actually went to Penn State, but right now I would say it is very likely it's going to be Ole Miss for him. And then how about this little budding rivalry here between Ohio State and Miami? This is the second straight year towards the end of the cycle Miami has flipped an Ohio State running back. This time it's Jordan Lyle. Now, this is a very interesting situation. Ohio State identified Jordan Lyle as their second running back in their class. They've already got another running back who's a top 150 player, but Lyle is a guy that they got. He was ranked like right around 200. He's been climbing like crazy. Several of the recruiting sites have him as a top 3 running back in the entire class. And Miami, utilizing that NIL, really makes a play and does end up flipping him, kind of like last year with Mark Fletcher. Miami also took Justin Scott through an NIL deal from Ohio State. So this is interesting to see. Miami with 3 different flips now from Ohio State. These are players that Ohio State invested a lot of resources in. They were committed to the Buckeyes, and these were solid top 150 players, including Justin Scott, who was a solid 5-star, or is a solid 5-star part of this class. So this will be something interesting to follow when it comes to Miami and Ohio State not really matching in terms of their NIL money. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.